Nikita, good morning, buddy.
Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm really good. I'm very grateful that you are here. We've already been riffing before we formally went live. You have a really unique story, and you were actually born in the United States, but your father is a former professional NHL player that's been around a couple of teams. And you were actually born in the States, but you're a transplant to Florida. So first off, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Dude, we already, for people that are listening, I've watched you coach my nephew. I've watched you coach my son. I've watched you coach a bunch of other kids. And you have something that I haven't seen yet in a coach. And I've been around hockey my entire adult life in so many ways. It also speaks volumes to the organization that's growing here, like the Florida Kings. And you're now a really important part of it. But I want to go back a bit to, how did you end up in Florida?
Well, it's a long story short. When I signed the Western Hockey League, my father was kind of looking for his next steps of what to do in life.
Right.
And he had a friend here who's working with the Kings. His name is Yoni. He's been my dad's buddy for many, many years now. And
how did they meet?
Just through hockey. Hockey brings everyone together. And
did Yoni play pro?
A little bit, I believe, yes, back home in Finland and a little bit in Sweden, actually, as well. So through that, hockey kind of brought them together 25 years ago.
Wow, and they stayed friends.
They stayed buddies all along, and Yoni kind of watched me grow up, helped me out as a kid.
He coached you as a kid?
A little bit, yeah. He helped me out, helped my dad out. He's helped my uncle out a bit. So
your uncle also played?
My uncle played, yeah. He played D3, and then he ended up just kind of going a different route. Now he's coaching in Colorado. But
you got hockey lineage, dude.
Yeah.
Wow.
It just flows all over the place. So, my family's a hockey family for sure. But then that's how it ended up happening. My dad, he was looking for his next steps in life. And when I left home, he decided to relocate here to coach with the South Florida Hockey Academy with Olli Jokinen, who used to play for the Panthers. And that
was a AAA program here that they started, and then COVID kind of kiboshed it.
Yeah, there is a lot of things that played into the factor. So they ended up kind of just taking a step back. Olli left to go coach in Finland professionally, and then Yoni switched over to the Kings program that's now ran by Anders Eriksson and all those guys.
Right.
And then my father ended up going to coach professionally in the KHL now, so he's in Russia. And
which team is he with?
He's with Novosibirsk.
Right.
Yeah.
And he's there with David Nemirovsky.
Yeah, David just got hired as a head coach recently. So
now, I don't know him personally. Yeah. I know his wife. I grew up with her.
Yeah.
And he's from the same neck of the woods from Toronto that I am.
Yeah.
So it's just a weird circle comes back. And he's here too. He's in Hollywood, I think.
Yeah, hockey world is crazy. It's such a small world. Everyone knows everyone somehow, some way. There's always connections, ties to each other. So,
but those relationships become brotherhoods. And you talk about Yoni, and you talk about your dad, and you talk about and that's 25, 30 years down the line, and they're still helping each other out, supporting one another, in the hockey world. And I don't know if that's unique to hockey, but from the perspective that I know from athletics and hockey and what I've been closest to, it is a real brotherhood, between the athletes.
Yeah, honestly, the thing with hockey that I love and I'll take for the rest of my life with is there's a lot of good people in the industry. There's a lot of honest people, loyal people, hardworking people. So if anything I can take away from hockey is the relationships you get, because a lot of those guys, they're honest, they're 100% with you. And I think that's why hockey guys in the future, they end up having a good career, whatever they do, whether they continue playing, coaching, or doing something else in life. It kind of flows in one state because they're such loyal people, such honest people.
Right. And so you're in the Western League, your dad's here.
Yeah.
And then how did you end up back here?
So I would come down to train the summers with Olli Jokinen. He used to have pro camps down here. We had a couple other junior guys training, and I'd come back every summer, train, then go back to the Western Hockey League to play, and I kind of got the feeling of understanding what Florida is like because it was new for me here. Like I grew up a little bit in Florida when I was a baby because my dad would come train in the summers here.
Oh, wow.
I actually took my first steps on the rink on the beach now.
Get out of here.
Yeah, so it's like, there is roots here. My family kind of had their, spots in Boca and Sunny Isles, so we've been around. So coming back here now, like 20 plus years later, and I'm, a grown adult basically, and, everything's weird because I was here as a baby, and now it's a whole different lifestyle for me. So it's cool to experience and relive that. I actually grew up down the block here.
Wow.
So it's weird passing by the building every day and just thinking that was me like 20 years ago as a baby over there. It's just the world it goes round and round, and you just never know where you might end up in life. It's
I would have
crazy.
never said that I would have ended up in Florida.
Yeah.
Further having a conversation about hockey in South Florida, which is absolutely on the uptick. Like hockey here is in its infancy, but it has so much potential by the type of people that are surrounding it, and now the parents that are moving down here from places that are hockey hotbeds that understand the sport, want to grow the sport, and they know what to look for in coaching. I've now been around a couple of rinks, and the Kings provide something that none of the other rinks could provide, and that's real life expertise from people that have played it at the highest level and still aspiring to it. And then you get that with the kids on what rink can say that they've had a Stanley Cup winner or a Vezina Trophy candidate? I think Vokun actually won a Vezina.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, like what rink can boast that? Nobody can say that, right? And it's incredible. No. Going back to your particular journey, you were born in Minnesota.
Yeah,
right?
Woodbury, Minnesota.
And you're a 2000, which in hockey talk, that's how you talk, right? That makes you 22 or 23.
22. Late birthday, almost an 01. So December 23rd.
Okay.
My birthday.
So, all right. So you're a 2000. You played in the Western League, and then you played in the First Division Finnish League, correct? For Olli Jokinen?
Yeah, I played for Olli Jokinen the last 2 years over there in Finland.
What was that like?
Oh, it was amazing. He's one of the best coaches I probably had in my life. Honest guy. He obviously went through in his career playing for the Panthers, and taking the experiences that he went through, just the way he sees the game, it's a whole different level. I believe Paul Maurice, he's with the Panthers now. He actually told us a story. Olli was saying that when he was still playing for Paul in Winnipeg, Paul told him he's going to make a good head coach one day. And then the first year that I played for Olli in the Finnish Elite League, he won the Coach of the Year because he brought our team from last place to third place in the league, which, coming from the small market that I played on, was quite incredible. It was amazing to see what he could do for hockey, and I think he's just going to keep growing with the sport. I heard some other opportunities for him are coming along, so I wouldn't be surprised one day he's going to be coaching the NHL.
Yeah, you think he's going to be in the show?
100%. 100%. He's got the brain for it. He's got the connection with players. He knows how to push players. He just knows how to get that little extra out of everyone, and he knows how to put the pieces together. That's the issue with a lot of coaches. They don't know how to utilize players. They don't know how to utilize pieces. So if a coach, can say, hey, I'm going to put this guy with this guy, and it's going to create energy, or I'm going to put this guy with this guy, they're going to score goals. Not a lot of coaches get the feel for that. And he also knows how to let guys have fun. If he sees someone struggling, he'll talk to him on the mental side of the game, which a lot of coaches also don't do. They just say, oh, he's not playing well, I'll just leave him in the dust. He finds a way to help his guys, and that's the thing with him. He's, he's an honest guy. He's a helpful guy. He'll let you know how it is. But from my experience playing for him, it was the greatest 2 years I could have had. So I'm really grateful for.
Why'd you stop playing?
Just too many concussions, especially the last 2 years. It just got heavy on me, mentally especially. You go to sleep and you can't sleep. You're just wide awake all night, headaches, just the nauseous feeling. It was just, it was time for me to take a step back and realize maybe there's more to life than just hockey. And it was a hard decision, but I think right now I just need to step away because it took me into a dark place for a little bit. and it was kind of getting scary to the point where I was like, okay, you know, I don't like the thoughts that I'm thinking. I don't like the feelings that I'm feeling. And, you know, being alone in Finland, you're in another country with people speaking a different language, no family around. It becomes heavy. It becomes heavy. You know, you go home every day, you're done by 2:00, and you don't know what to do with yourself. So for me, it became really heavy just being alone because I didn't know how to escape that feeling. You know, you go on the ice and you're feeling like crap. You're feeling dizzy and you don't know what's going on with you. It's just there's so many different emotions that go through your body. You know, that you're trying to push through it because it's the hockey mentality of, oh, I need to be tough. I need to be strong. I need to do this. I need to do that. I need to stay in the lineup. But you know, it just became too much for me in a sense where I couldn't mentally handle it anymore because it started taking me to a dark place that I didn't like. And because of that, I just decided, hey, it's maybe time for at least 1 year to step away from hockey and look at it at a different perspective. You know, like now I get to coach Jesse. I've gone to skate with your son quite a few times, and I get to see the other side of hockey that matters, and that's the love of the sport, why you play hockey. Because when you get to that level, you get higher and higher. It's it becomes more of a business-like situation where you have to play not because you want to, but you know there's money involved, there's spots on the team involved, there's trades involved. You know, you're fighting for a different approach of how to stay on the team, how to make yourself better, how to get yourself to the next level. And then all those different emotions just kind of take you to a different place instead of just, hey, why am I playing hockey? I'm playing because I love the sport. I'm playing it because when I was 3 years old, I got the feeling of like, wow, this is something special. So now that I get to see like Kobe living through it, or Jesse, even now I start to see that spark in his eyes again, like, wow, like this is the feeling of hockey. It just like gives you goosebumps that, you know, you got to enjoy the game. You got to love what you do. And I lost that for quite some time. So it became heavy. And right now, like, I think this is what I needed for myself to get back to where I was before, just actually loving the game and doing it for the right reasons. I think that's the biggest thing.
Can you attribute specifically to one thing or something? If you want to fix your mic, just bring it up and tighten it up. We use this thing right here so you get more comfortable. See if that'll tighten it. Yeah, if it will tighten it up. And you can use this part as well. See if that'll tighten it up for you.
Got it. Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank
So
you.
I want you to be comfortable, man, because you're talking about some like pretty personal stuff, and you know, I really want to only hear what you have to say, and I have to really be careful. Like I have all these questions I want to fire at you that I don't want to interrupt. Can you attribute what the concussions came from? Was it fighting? Was it hitting? Was it your style of game? Was it a combination of the two?
I wouldn't say it's one exact particular situation. Hockey's a fast sport. It's a different sport. Like everything happens so quick, and you know, I've obviously, like, I think everyone's taken a few blows to the head or
Sure.
hits in general to where they're like, whoa, what's going on? But then I started noticing over time that they became a little heavier, a little bit more tougher in my head. When I got older, I felt like I started losing that love for the game. And I would let the anger out in a different way. I would let the aggression out in a different way. There was a lot of things personally going on that I was dealing with, and it just, in some sense, it became an outlet for me to go on the ice. And I guess if I got to that point of where I'm feeling like upset or things aren't going my way, I would just let it out. And, you know, at times I would fight just to let it out. At times I would fight because you're fighting for a spot on the team to stay in the lineup. There's different things that you fight for, you know. My last particular fight in Finland, you know, we were losing the game 4-1 on the road, and our team was short basically because we had guys sick with COVID, and I get told that I got asked if I want to play, and obviously you're never going to say no to playing in the lineup. So I said yeah, and I wasn't fully cleared to play with my concussion, technically. I never got the full go. I go out there, we're losing 4-1. one of the guys asked me to fight, and I end up dropping the gloves because in my mentality of playing, I think, how can I make a difference in the game? How can I try to help? So if I can give my team energy by fighting, then that's what I do. And it was stupid on my part. It made it worse for myself. But I guess it's just that thing when you play, you're in a different state of mind. You're not thinking rationally. You're almost just playing out of sense of like, I'll do anything to win. So it became a little bit of aggression to trying to stay in the lineup to how can I make a difference. There's these little factors that play in that it's so tough to explain to a normal person or anyone on the street because they don't understand. They think we just play hockey and go home and, it's a great life. It's tough. Like, you leave home at 16 years old, you have to be thrown into a real world. You're thrown into a world where you have to become a man early. Some kids are ready, some kids are not. And maybe I wasn't ready for that. And I think that also plays into a factor of why my career went the way it did, because I had to grow up a lot faster than I was ready for. You have kids going to college and they have until 25 to kind of get their crap together. A lot of kids, like I'm sure Jesse went through it, I went through it. You get thrown in the real world at 16 years old. You start fighting for a spot to play on the team. Everyone's got a dream to play in the NHL at 18, 19, 20. And those little factors play into it. It's a mental side of the game as well.
When I watch you and Jesse skate together and train together, and I turned around to Anders after your first practice, I said the same thing about when you coached my son, because you were out there doing all the things that need to be done, but you legitimately care. But when you were on with Jesse, it was like both of you guys have gone through some serious adversity real quick at a very young age. Like, you talk about a decision at 16 years old. My nephew Jesse, who's in the OHL right now, was given the opportunity to play D1 hockey or go to the OHL. But the difference is that once you commit to the OHL, if you ever set foot, you can't play D1 hockey, like a 2-year penalty. And you won't be able to play until you're 18, really. So that means 2 years you have to play junior A hockey. Anything can happen. They can decommit. You can't be as good. You can get injured and blah, blah, blah. Kid goes out, skates as a 16-year-old, does extremely well. And then the next year, rookie season, he scored that teddy bear toss goal, yeah. And then, and right at that, as he scored that goal, I tell you, we were all watching at home. Me, my mom, my brother, and my sister-in-law, and my father was laying on his deathbed in the living room. He was like 2 days before he actually died. And we were watching that game all break down into tears. So my father, who was a huge part of all of our lives, we have a very small family that immigrated to Canada, and now, ironically, I'm in the United States. 16-year-old kid playing, and he loses, a huge male figure in his life. And then shortly thereafter, his mom gets diagnosed with stage 3 colon cancer. Totally unexpected. And then COVID hits. So in the short term, he got, trial by fire as a 16-year-old who's now away from home and playing hockey. There's so much more to it than just getting on the ice and stepping up. COVID's over. He flies, ironically, to Finland, plays at Karpatu or
Oulu, yeah.
Yeah. So 21 years old, league. He does really well. Flies there with my brother. Gets locked down after 6 games. So uprooted. Everybody goes there for hockey. Comes back. Steps on the ice first game back after COVID. Exhibition practice. Gets hit in the numbers. Tears his ACL by somebody who's now in the show. That kid in the short time frame went through so much, and then he comes back to a coach who's brand new, who wants to use him, and Jesse is now as a player, as a utility guy. He's not a shutdown guy. Yeah. He's a finesse guy, right? He can put it in the net. And that's just how it goes, right? Yeah. There's so much you guys are going through at such a young age that nobody else can understand. But then I see you two on the ice, and you guys get each other, right? Like, you're just a couple of years ahead of him. But you get all that adversity, you get all that pain. You can look him in the eye and say, look, this is what you can do on the ice. But that's just the tip of the iceberg of what you're actually dealing with when you're actually skating and you're trying to make the most elite level hockey is a career paycheck, and people don't get that, right? Unless you live it. Now, you have lineage in hockey, and you've seen your dad do it. Having your father play professionally, and you're going through all these things, did it help you?
Yeah, I think, at that age when we just started going, I moved in with him when I was about 9, and he started teaching me really early about the...
What do you mean you moved in with him when you were about 9?
Well, because he was still coaching professionally back home in Russia.
Okay.
And then I was living with my sister and my mom back in Moscow.
Okay.
And then we made the decision that I was going to move to the States with my father to train in Denver. So that was the first step that I took into taking hockey seriously. So I kind of had a late start with it, but just getting to talk to my dad at an early age, it was always confusing for me because when I talked to him, I was always like the passionate kid of like, oh my God, you scored a goal against Patrick Waugh. What was that like? And he's like, well, it's tough to remember. And I'm like, how can you not remember that? And as you get older, you kind of start understanding more of the words that he was explaining to me, like hockey's a business, hockey's this, you got to take care of your body because they don't care. I think it was more of a perspective of he taught me the love of the game really early, and I absolutely fell in love with it. I was obsessed with it. But I think the biggest thing for me that I took away from my dad was understanding what hockey's about. And I'm grateful that he got to let me know what the dirty business of it is, because when I came to terms with it, I wasn't surprised, I wasn't shocked, I wasn't wasting my energy on thinking, why is this happening? How is this happening? I was almost saying, okay, this is what you were told is going to happen at 11 years old, 12 years old, 13 years old. To have those conversations at that age, it's tough because now I feel like kids are Fortnite and TikTok and all this stuff. Right. They don't understand at this age, at 10, 11 years old, what hockey's like at that level. I hear these kids like, and I'm not trying to be negative. I'm not trying to be...
No, speak truth.
I'm just...
it's your perspective. You're allowed to have one.
Yeah, I think it's crazy to me, like, these kids don't understand a single bit. Like, Jesse, at 16, he's already playing in the OHL, and there's kids here that, that they just think what they're doing is enough. It's not enough. It's never enough. What Jesse did. Clearly, there's other things that have to play in your favor to make it.
Sure.
But the work is limitless. You have to work nonstop. And for me, like with my dad, he always told me that. He's like, Nikita, it's never enough. It's never enough. You go ride the bike twice a day, it's never enough. There's always something you could do more. And I remember I got lucky enough to have Joe Sakic as one of my coaches at 12 years old. I played with his son. I played with Adam Foote's kids. Both of them are in the NHL now. Grew up with that family. I remember my dad always told me, like, watch Joe. Joe he's one of the best players to ever do it in the NHL.
Right.
Hall of Fame guy. He told me his shots, he would nonstop work on his shots, no matter how good he got, no matter how many goals he scored. So it's like, if those guys at that level are doing the small things every day to get better, it gives no reason for a kid 11 years old to 20 years old to 25 years old not to do the same. You can never be too good at something. You can always perfect something. And that's the difference that separates the guys that make it and the guys that don't. So if anyone's listening out there as a young athlete, anything, and you're at that age where you think you're doing enough, you're not. If you're getting up at 5 a.m. to run or shoot pucks or practice, whatever you're doing in life, it's not enough. You could always do more. There's another level to where you can get, and it's all about pushing through the mind. You have to be obsessed with it. That's the biggest takeaway I can have for this is you need to be obsessed, because if you're not, you might as well not try. And a lot of these kids, I think, they don't understand that factor. They just think that they show up for a 4:30 practice at 4:15, it's enough. It's not enough.
You obviously have hockey lineage and passion for it, and you understand the business side of hockey. And look at these. People don't understand the context and how big these businesses are. Like you're talking about an overall salary cap of the entire league that hits, I think, $3.5 billion, and that's just player salaries and not anything else in between it. But is hockey done for you as an athlete, like, or is there still an opportunity and then there's will to try to become a professional at the highest level?
You know, like I've been on the ice a few times now, just like to skate around, play for the love of it, just with a couple of my buddies and stuff. And if I can have that same feeling that I have when I play with those guys, 100%, because I still love hockey. I still think about it. Like that's all I think about. It's all in my brain. It's nonstop. So yeah, there is 100% that desire to play again one day. But just right now, there's a lot of other factors that need to play in with my health. Like if I can get back with my concussions.
What are you doing to remedy that? Is it possible to bounce back from that?
I mean, yeah, like I went through a long, extensive period of time doing rehab in Finland, in Tampere, with this great doctor. His name is Nikita. He was unbelievable for me. He put me through many different exercises for my eyes, balance drills. You know, it's a long process. Takes time. It's not just a one-day thing. You do it once and it's over. It's constantly getting better at it. So I'm still working on those things. I take some supplements to kind of help restore my neurons in my brain to kind of connect them back together. I did some therapy back in Los Angeles as well. So I'm trying to get back to get that normal feeling again. And if I can, I definitely would want to continue playing hockey. Obviously, the NHL is, I don't know, I don't even care about that. I just want to do it for myself, that I could say, hey, like, you know, I went through this, that, and I could still come back and play hockey at whatever level. Like,
man, for a guy who's 22 years old, you speak with life experience, and that is way, way, way beyond your years. I don't know if I'm saying that as a compliment or if I'm saying that as like you've hardened real quick. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. I have a perspective on, I think that the society that we're raising is soft. Yeah. And I don't aspire that for my kids. But I also think that, you know, some of the things that you've already endured and at a very young age are really tough to deal with. You talk about a dark place. I'll tell you from somebody who's been to those dark places several times in my life for a variety of reasons. It means different things for different people, but I understand you. I understand you more than you will ever understand, you know, and it's not something that I'm open and comfortable to talk about, but I get it, right? Which is also why I see that kind of life experience is going to translate incredibly well towards the young crop of kids that are here with dedicated parents, with dedicated athletes that are like, I'm flying to Canada to kill a couple of birds with one stone, but not the least of which is because I want my son playing at a hockey camp there with kids his age. It's almost exclusively. And that's a major commitment financially and otherwise, right? Sorry. He's 5 years old, right? But in Florida now, it's starting to really pick up. The Florida Kings have done a really, really good job in the quality of people that they have with the kids on the ice. But you have a program like 8U. So you're lumping 8 kids that are 8 years old and down together. In Canada, because you have everybody's lacing up, 5U, 6U, 7U, 8U, like you have enough at each level. And my biggest fear for Kobe is I don't want him to physically. He's not an 8-year-old, so he's gonna go in the corners with an 8-year-old. He's gonna get hit, and anything could happen. And that's what I fear, right? But we're committed. Where do you see Florida hockey going?
Honestly, I've known Anders and Joe Radek, Volky for many years now, since I was 16. And if they keep doing what they're doing, because they have a positive message, I see the passion that those guys coach with. They have the life experience. They have the experience in hockey. It's got to go through the roof, because those guys, they know what they're doing. And I wish people would keep believing in what they're doing, because they know what it takes. They put me through that stage I was lucky enough to get to know him at a young age. I've known Anders since I was 16. Those things you will never find anywhere else. So if they can keep having people believe in them and grow the hockey down here, it's going to be through the roof, in my opinion. And the thing about Florida is you have the beach, you have the sun. There's a reason why there's so many NHL guys that come to train down here, and it's because of the recovery. It's because of the little factors that play in with the mood. Like you'll never be coming outside, going to the beach, getting the sun, right, after a training session, because it's hard. It's mentally tough. It's physically tough. So if you can come in and recover, you'll be just as good. You'll be even better, right? So if kids can start understanding, like taking advantage of being in Florida compared to kids who are in the middle of nowhere training, right?
Right.
It's going to be unbelievable. And I'm sure there's little pieces coming out of Florida. I believe there was a kid named Gavin Brindley. He just got drafted into the NHL.
From the Alliance, right?
Yeah, from the
Alliance.
Alliance.
And there's Duheim, I think, also.
Duheim, yeah.
Right.
Duheim's a few years older than me. My father's known him, his family, for quite some time as well. Andrew Peak, he's another kid. He's in Columbus right now.
He's right now off ice.
Yeah.
I think I saw him. He was skating with Jesse. Jesse, right now, as me and you were talking, are playing in that SoFlo.
Oh yeah,
that 3-on-3 tournament, right?
Oh,
so
yeah,
that
yeah.
you got Svechnikov, you've got a bunch of like pro guys that are here for exactly those reasons that you're talking about. You can step out and have that vitamin D injection, right? It gets you out of it's not a hockey hotbed, so you don't have to worry about walking into a restaurant like you do in Toronto and everyone wants a selfie with you. You can have dinner in peace. Right. And then the vibe here is totally different that allows for recovery. And I never thought about that until you just said it. That's actually a brilliant way of explaining with it, which is by default why we asked Jesse to come down here. Yeah. We said, come stay with us, get out of your headspace, because, the definition of madness is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. Yeah. So come here, hear new voices, see new people. And I'm a firm believer. I'm not like my wife that's just so overly spiritual, but I don't believe in accidents. I believe that everything happens for a reason. And then you have these windows in your life where you get to do things and things just kind of oh my God, that worked out. But it's not without adversity. It's not without challenge. Hockey itself is almost a stage for what life looks like, and the adversities, the ups and downs, even if you're doing it at the highest level. I don't have any false hope that my son is going to play in the NHL. I mean, obviously, I wish for that for him, and I think every parent who has their son or daughter lace up play at the highest level. But I do hope that it will teach him discipline, give him exercise, teach him to be a team player, respect the sport, hard work, and do all those things. And I'm instilling that at 5. Like you see my kid, I put him on the ice, because there's no getting around it. And whatever it turns out to, if there's anything that I would say as a parent that I want to do is, I want them to understand that I love him unconditionally. I don't care what he accomplishes or my daughters accomplish. And I also want them to understand that nothing comes in this life without putting in hard work and being uncomfortable.
100%.
Right?
And I think the biggest thing that I like that you just said, you don't have any expectations for it.
No.
Obviously, you want them to get there one day, but the worst thing that a parent can do is put expectations on the kid.
Yeah. I've seen it.
And it's brutal. It's mentally brutal. And I think what I appreciate that you just said for Colby at 5 years old, all those things are great that you want to teach him. That's all that matters, because whether he plays one day in the NHL, it doesn't matter. It's what he's going to be as a person. And that's the thing about hockey. It creates really good people.
I want my nephew Jesse, I want them to be able to play at the highest possible level that they can possibly get to and test those boundaries and limits, not with the expectation of getting paid, millions of dollars to play in the NHL or anything like that. I want them to know that I gave them the opportunity. And Jesse, my brother and sister-in-law and Jesse's got two older brothers that also played. You know, they've done a lot for him along the way and sacrificed for him because they believe it, right? I wanted to be able to do the same for my kids, and I get kind of choked up about it because I want him to listen to this podcast, 10 years from now when he's starting to think about maybe getting drafted or going to college or something like that. And I want him to understand that sometimes when I'm hard on him or I'm saying to him, get up, go work, right? It's not because I want him to be an NHL player. It's because I want him to be able to aspire to get to the highest level that he could possibly achieve. And I'm going to do the same thing with homework. I'm going to do the same thing when he wants to open up a business, if he wants to open one up. I want to be able to support him. I want to show him the way and get out of the way. And I want to do the same thing for my daughters, right? It's the support. And obviously and somebody else taught me this. This is not my saying, but it's true. Once you get older, you get to a certain point and you realize that your parents did the best they could with what they could at that time. So your parents' ceiling is now your floor. And now as a parent, you're going to try to create a higher ceiling, and that will be their new floor, and you want them to take it forward. And that's, I think, what most people aspire to. You talk about hockey people within the organization, of hockey as a big thing. From what I've encountered, incredibly high quality people outside of, the bad apples and people that have their own intentions. And sometimes it's business, right? You're just not going to see eye to eye because this person wants this person wants that. I get it. There's bickering and there's always, boardroom, the chatter on the glass in between parents and stuff like that. But there is incredibly high quality people. Assuming, maybe you end up in the show one day and I will require an autographed jersey because I collect. If that doesn't work out, what's the next phase for you within the hockey world, or maybe not?
That's a good question. For me, I think the biggest, there's this guy, his name is JT Barnett. His dad used to be, he has a hockey agency.
Okay.
And I started listening to him about when I was 17. He also had the same story, playing in the Western Hockey League, played a little bit of pro, and then kind of, due to injuries, stepped away from the game. And the biggest thing that he did with social media was help grow and help understand what hockey is like at that level, how to get better, how to look at things at a different perspective. So for me to have him when I was 16 and now he's 27, I kind of want to do the same thing from my experience for the younger generation, to connect through social media. Let's say it's Instagram or TikTok, to be able to say, like, if I could spread a positive message to them or help build themselves up or find a way to make them better, then I feel like I'm doing my part. And whether that leads to something in the social media industry or whether that leads to me coaching one day, I don't know. Or maybe I go play and do it on the side. I don't know. But my biggest thing right now is I want to feel fulfilled that I'm trying to help other people. And I'm trying to help, like, let's say Jesse, right? We had this conversation one-on-one, and I won't say what was talked about, but I told you from the beginning, the reason why I want to help Jesse is because someone helped me like that about
you did say
3
that
years
to me.
ago. 3 years ago, someone helped me. And he didn't have to do it. His name is Dan. Unbelievable person. I'm grateful every day that he took me under his wing. So if I could do the same thing for Jesse, and whether or not he goes on to play in the NHL one day or in Europe or somewhere, I can say that, listen, from my experience that I went through, I try to help him, and whatever he took from that, good on him. Or if I can have a positive influence on him to keep going just a little bit more, then I can live with myself. Or if I could do that for some other kid in the world that's watching me through a phone on Instagram that's going through a tough day or had a bad game, like, I would feel incredible knowing that I made a difference in someone's life because of what I went through. Because a lot of these kids, they don't have the experience that I got to have with my father, let's say, teaching me that at an early age, that, listen, it's going to be tough. This is going to happen. This is going to happen. And you have to deal with it. You have to play through it. You know what I mean? So if I can guide those kids in the same direction from a different perspective, then I feel like I did my part. So whether that leads to me playing in the future or coaching, I don't know. But I just want to say that I made a difference.
I've said this to you already, and you need to become an agent. Become an amazing agent.
I would love to be an agent.
I think that the empathy right up front that you would bring to an athlete, and they all go through struggles. I don't care what anybody tells you. You know, the first overall picks, everyone thinks that these people are walking on clouds. No, they got the weight of the world on their shoulders. There's first rounders, second rounders that go into the draft, right? They're not dealing with any less pressure than anybody else. So, you know, I've heard people say that, and I'm like, that's foolishness, right? An agent that gets that person, it's not just, you know, a number, that will go a long way, and you'd be an incredible agent.
Yeah, I appreciate
that. I have no doubt. Selfishly, I want you to be a coach here in Florida for as long as I can have you as a coach. But you are not going to end up just you're destined for big things, much bigger things because of the empathy. But right now, I think you have to go through your own challenges and figure that stuff out, and you will be stronger for it. I know it's cliche. Yeah. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger, but it's absolutely true. Without that adversity, without that pain, it's like going to the gym. If you're not sore, you didn't work hard enough. Yeah, you didn't tackle it, right? Yeah. There's no easy way about it. Like you said it earlier, you know, you can always do more. You find out where that sweet spot is, and you want to have a life, and you know all those other things. That's fine, but there's somebody out there that's willing to outwork you, and they'll end up probably with the results. But then you got to get lucky along the way. Injuries, a coach that doesn't see eye to eye with you, right? You have your own personal challenges. You know, professional athletes can deal with divorces, you know, breakups, you know, and then health, right? Not only your own. Like I watched Jesse through it, and he went through some cancer scares within his like immediate family within a span of a year. Nobody knew any of that stuff that the kid was going through. Right? Nobody could see it. Nobody knows what kind of impact that has on somebody. I know what impact it had on me losing my father, and I was 38 years old. You know, 39 years old, and I was devastated. Right, and I can imagine what it was like on a 16-year-old. Right, but these are like all heavy things, but they go through it. I think that you have a giantly bright future within hockey because you care. Unfortunately, I don't think you can keep up that clip forever because you're giving up a lot of yourself. Then you also have to make sure that you keep your own energy in check because you can't fill out of an empty cup. Exactly. Right? You know, your dad traveled a lot. As a professional athlete, you played on like 6 different teams or something like that. Yeah. What was that like for you, moving from place to place to place?
I didn't get to go through it as much as my sister did because my sister's a 92 born year.
So did she play hockey too?
No, she never played. She actually played tennis for a little bit. She used to be a really good.
That's player. Like a Florida religion.
Yeah, exactly. But she, I asked her a few times. I'm like, how was it for you? It was tough for the family, I think, in a sense of she had to go through different schools, meeting new people, friends, all that stuff. So
is she here in Florida?
She's in LA right now. She lives in Los Angeles, so she's been out there for quite some time since she was 18. But it was tough on her. I know that. I got to experience it in Russia more when my dad was playing in the KHL. Mm-hmm. I was kind of at that age where I started understanding what he was doing for a job. Going down to the locker rooms, getting to see him in the locker room after the games was pretty special. Going to the games, but the only part I just really remember is like him coming around once in a while in Moscow if he was playing a game there, us going to see him for games. But I don't think at that age you really understand it as much as you do when you get older. Like, okay, my dad was doing this for a living. That's why he couldn't be around so much. So there's like those little sacrifices that you have to make as a family to be able to deal with it.
They're not little sacrifices, dude.
Yeah, well,
they're necessary because it is what it is, but it doesn't mean that it impacts you any less.
Yeah, exactly. I just, the biggest thing for me, I remember how happy I was when he would come around. Like, he would always bring me a broken stick or something to, cheer me up because it was tough to see him go. But then now I realize that getting to spend so much time with him when I was 9 years old, moving in and getting to train with him all day long.
Was he your coach, like your first real hockey coach?
Oh, 100%.
Was he tough, extra tough because he was your dad? Especially a Russian mentality that I'm sure he came up through the ranks of, because Russians are notorious for being different. Things that they would never get away with in the States, they did in Russia.
I don't think tough can really describe it.
Do your best.
It was, I don't want to say in a bad way though. It was what I needed at that age to get to where I wanted to be in a short span of time, because I was basically starting from scratch when I moved in with him to try to get to where I wanted to be. And for me to get from about 9 years old, 10 years old to 15 years old signing a Western Hockey League contract, it was, now I look back at it, I have much more appreciation for the work that I had put in with my father. But it was, 5 a.m. wake up call, going to skate, going to work out. After school, getting out of school early to go skate again, do another workout, then team practices. It's at one point it felt like I was doing it in a sense of my dad was pushing me, and that was really hard because I didn't understand why we were doing it at such an early age. I was 9, 10 years old. I'm like, why are we waking up at 5 a.m? Why are we doing this at 2 o'clock? Like, I just want to go rest after school. You know what I mean? But then when I got to about 11 years old, something just clicked. And I remember even talking to my dad many years later. He was like, it was crazy to see that switch in you that just went off. And it's like you became obsessed with it. You were watching highlights every day. You were stick handling in the kitchen, like just doing crazy stuff to get to where you wanted to be. And I remember from about like 12 years old, I started understanding what the Western Hockey League was. And from then on, I just had my mind set on Western Hockey League, Western Hockey League. I didn't care about college, nothing. And
Jesse was the same way.
Yeah. Whatever that switch is, it happens to kids. And I think that's why, like, it separates, let's say, like Jesse, right? He made it at 16. There's kids that are just going to high school at that time, enjoying life. And that's fine. There's different perspectives. Everyone has a different life to live. But I think it's just when you understand the perspective of how special those kids are, whether or not they make the NHL, whether or not they have careers after, it takes a lot of hard work to get to that level. So I wish that there was more appreciation for those kids. Like recently you see quite a few kids, not making it in the OHL. There's been a few guys, whatever the situations are. I don't want to really get into it too much, but there are those battles that kids deal with at that early age. So, to say that even just getting to that level to play a couple games, it's already an accomplishment for a person. And I wish there was more realization for that those kids, they're on a different level.
Are you going to bring that kind of psychology, training, ideology that your dad instilled in you? And, you were Olli Jokinen and Anders. Anders was my first podcast. He was my first official launch on the podcast. Yeah. And I thought it was important because half of the listener base at this point, maybe slightly less, are Canadians. And Canadians that are thinking of moving down here. Yeah. And I've had multiple conversations with parents about what's hockey like here, because it's like it was an afterthought, right? It's no longer an afterthought. It's on the come up, right. But are you going to bring that brand of coaching to the Kings?
I think that's one thing I want to, because, on the ice part is different than the mental part of the game. And there's a different approach that I want to bring in with it, because you don't want to scare the kids in a sense.
Sure.
But if you can teach the kids that, listen, it takes more than just going to practice. It's the little things on showing up an hour early for practice, mentally preparing. Because when you go out there, it's a chance to get better. Or when you go home, the thoughts that you think, like, instead of just going home and, I'm going to go scroll my phone, what could I do better in practice? What did I do wrong in practice? Those little things, they play into it. So if I could help kids understand at this age, like, listen, there's little steps that you can take to get better each and every day, Like, that's what I would love to do, because I know that that's what separates guys at that level. And I hope that I can bring that positive influence for them for the future, you know.
Which teams are you going to be coaching this year?
As of right now, I know I'll be helping with the U14s as an assistant coach.
Travel?
Yeah.
And that's with Radek Dvorak?
No, Dan, the guy that helped me out. But I think I'll just be kind of scattered all over the place, trying to help out with every team. Whether that's with the skating edges, stick handling part, or just being on the ice to help the kids out and be a positive influence.
I got to tell you the coolest thing. That totally popped into my mind. Yesterday, Jesse sends me, me, my brother, Jesse, my wife, like a lot of us via Instagram, we do spend a lot of time just scrolling through that dark hole that is social media. But we try to send each other positive messages. Like, there's a lot of positivity too that you can listen to. Adversity and whatever, and he sends me a drill from the Edmonton Oilers training camp, and I didn't get it at first. I'm like, is there someone here that I should know or whatever? He goes, no. He goes, check the drill out, and he's like, Nikita, and there's a drill that you were doing with him that he's never done before. When you're standing on the puck, hands like the stuff that he's doing with you is stuff that he hasn't done before. More importantly, you may or may not have now had these conversations with Jesse. He's an adult. I don't inquire, but he's still playing timid on that right knee a year after, already being in a full season in the NHL or in the OHL. But he wasn't ready or comfortable or confident to do any of those types of drills because physically he's there, but mentally he wasn't. Right. And he's like, whoa, now I can do that. Right. I watched him play in a game, and I've been around it for so long and watching him for so long that I could tell when he's on and when he's off. And his game was good, but his confidence wasn't there because he was playing timid on his knee. And then I watched him play the other day. I'm like, dude, that's the kid I saw drafted in minor midget.
Right. And I think you've been watching the practices on the ice. So
I go all the time. I love it. Plus I get to throw Kobe on and he's you guys don't see it, but he's absorbing everything you guys are doing. You're still in tune with Jesse. The other day he was watching you guys. He goes out and gets tires and he starts doing the drills that you guys are doing on his own. Yeah. I don't talk to him. I don't coach him on the ice. I'm not one of those parents. When he's on the ice, he has a coach. If I don't like the coach, I switch teams. But I'm not the parent who's like, get up, do this, do that. If he's horsing around, I'll be like, stand up, don't sit on the ice. Right. But he's watching and absorbing you guys.
Yeah, he's a sponge, and I can see in his eyes that he's there. Like, he understands what you're processing. Like, he understands the information that you're trying to deliver to him, and not a lot of kids do. But going back to Jesse, you've been watching the practices over and over again, and we've been doing those simple drills, and people are like, oh, well, this is so boring and simple, but it's the foundation to build up to bigger things. And his leg, I could see now he's more comfortable. Yeah. Now he's starting to skate better. His edges are a lot smoother. So, that whole buildup of him just feeling confident again, it's all mental. You just got to feel confident. I remember my dad always told me, it takes one game to ruin it for yourself, and it takes one game to fix it. So whether or not you're going on a 10 game stretch where you're playing brutal, it takes one game, score 2 goals, you're feeling on top of the world.
Yeah.
Or you could have 5 good games and 1 game ruin it for you all, and you're going to have a brutal month. And it's all up to you to figure it out mentally. How can I change that? How can I fix that? So if you can mentally handle your thoughts of, you know what, that was just a bad game, I'll let it go and move on, you're going to be a whole different player than anyone else.
And is that something you would coach early on, regardless of the age of the kid?
100%. You look at guys now I'm starting to, I watched the Michael Jordan documentary.
What, The Last Dance?
Yeah.
It's the only one I've watched 3 times.
It's unbelievable.
Incredible.
Unbelievable. And I think if I was ever to advise anyone to watch something, especially as an athlete, watch that documentary. But don't watch it from an entertainment perspective. Watch it from, how is Michael Jordan so good? Why is he so good? Listen to his teammates. People were scared of him, not because he was or maybe he was a little douche to his teammates, but
he won.
He had a different perspective. He understood how to push the buttons. He, in one of the games, when the players asked him, "Are you pissed about last night's game?" He goes, "Oh," as he's smoking a cigar. "Why would I be pissed? You know, this is one game." You know what I mean? That mindset you can't teach. And I think the biggest takeaway from that documentary, there was a quote goes, Jordan always said, "Why am I going to worry about a shot that I haven't missed yet?" Meaning wise, like, why am I going to worry about failing if I haven't failed yet?
And don't we go through that every day, all day, thinking about the worst possible outcome that hasn't even happened?
Exactly. And if that's the biggest thing I could take away from that is try not to set yourself up for failure with your thoughts, because thoughts are everything. Positive affirmations, manifesting it, it's all within you. And you have to have that clear vision in your brain that I can do this. This is what it's going to lead to. And put in the work. You can't manifest things without putting in the work, because they all come together. And I think if we're going to get into that stuff, we don't have to. But
no, dude, absolutely.
You know, like a crazy story. You know Mike Modano,
of
right?
course.
So I don't remember how I got the book, but it was a Mike Modano retirement book when he finished up with the Stars. And it was basically a book about his whole career, his whole life story. And he played for the Prince Albert Raiders as an American. And I always had the dream of playing for the Prince Albert Raiders because of him, Mike Modano, because he's a U.S.-born guy. And I had this book, and I just remember, like, sitting in school, I would get bored, or I'd get done early with something, and I just started writing, like, Krivo 25, you know, Prince Albert Raiders, or something like cheesy, I guess you could say.
Not cheesy.
And then, you know, 2 years later, I'm playing for the Prince Albert Raiders.
Funny how that works out.
And I'm sitting in a room where they have a banner of Mike Modano's jersey retirement. It's just like, it's crazy how things happen. And I don't know why they happen. Like you said, things happen for a reason. But just, I remember always looking back at that experience, whether or not it went well for me. That's, you know, it is what it is. But just the fact that I could say at 14 years old, I had that book, you know, of a role model that I had in my life for the team that he played for, and then I got to do that 2 years later. It's incredible. It's truly, like, I don't know what it is, if it's faith, or if it's manifestation, whatever it is, but I think if a person believes in something truly deep down, and if they have a clear goal, clear vision, and they put in the work, there's limitless. It's limitless for yourself.
I'm going to put it out here right now to say that I'm going to need probably 5 to 6 years from now, maybe earlier, maybe a bit later. The only way I'm going to be able to make an appointment through you is like through your PR person. I'll still have your number. I'll call you directly. But you've been very authentic, putting out, you know, real life scenarios for you. You're a super young guy with an amazing upside. It might not be, you know, it might not be a hat trick, or it might not be putting in goals on your own, but it'll definitely have to do with hockey in so many ways. I'm very, very grateful to have you as a coach, both to my nephew and my son. I'm grateful that you took the time, and I want to do a follow-up in a couple of years and be like, Nikita, where are you now?
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
And you're going to tell some stories, and then we can kind of look at it like, if you didn't go through the muck of now, right? And I think you kind of on the tail end of it, you're thoroughly working on yourself. You're not going to be able to get to that next step. And this will be a good one to kind of look back at it, man. So I'm forever in your debt for doing this. I'm grateful for it. You're a good dude.
I appreciate you having me on. This was great. It was, I think in a sense, it was a chapter for me closing. In a sense, I could let it all out of my system and talk about it, because you know, you come into the real world now, and I have my father, I have my family, but it's different talking to someone else about it.
It always is.
And
I don't have any judgments.
Yeah.
Right. I don't trigger you on anything. I just want to hear what you have to say, because what you say may impact somebody or more than one somebody. I had somebody on the podcast here that told me that someone heard her podcast and saved her marriage, right, with me. And like, you never know who's going to listen to this, and you're putting it out there, and you're going out of your way to pay it forward because somebody helped you out in the past. So I don't want to make it so heavy, but it's absolutely real, and that's how things happen. And dude, we're going to do this again. I'm not leaving Florida. Kobe's not going anywhere, right? We've got the whole travel season coming up. It'll be our first full season with the Florida Kings. And if anybody's looking for an organization, I can't think of a better one.
100%.
Right.
You guys got to come down here because this is just the tipping point of what it's going to be in the
I agree.
next couple of years.
It's like a startup for a stock is how I explain it to people. Like, but you can already see that there's something here, right? Exactly. And it's just this perfect storm of quality coaches, great facilities, parents that are engaged and want to be there and are having conversations with the coaches. So it's pretty cool, man. So, dude, you're the best. I appreciate your time. We'll do this again.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Take it
awesome.
easy.
Appreciate it.